Okay, so, but in other words, it will be available, the general portions will be available like even this evening and
Yeah.
tomorrow?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
actually available. It's actually available now. The talks that have already been given, you can go to
Okay,
YouTube
great.
right now. But it's, we're going to edit it down to remove the extraneous stuff and make it easier for people to see. But it is online already.
Okay,
Nancy's asking if we can share a link. You can always check out the link to Mass Peace Action's YouTube page. I just posted it in the chat. And yeah, you can have all of our programming there. But Cole, I might suggest that you mute participants now as we get back into the next panel.
Jody,
Okay.
is Jody Evans on the Zoom? She's on there. She's the co.
I'm here.
Hey, Jody.
All right, in about 3 minutes.
Oh, somebody put Jody up. Great. Hi, Jody. So we're going to pass it over to you to convene our final panel or our final session.
Thank you so much.
Got
So
3
welcome back.
Give people 2 more minutes to
More minutes. Okay.
Are you?
get back in from.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
Take a minute. All right.
Oh, no, maybe they're all in 240. Okay, sorry.
There, yeah.
Go, Jody, go. Jody Evans, one of the founders of Code Pink.
Yeah, the breakouts are closed, so people are back. We got 213 here. So
And who we're so happy to have here in these difficult times where we need some real leadership. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you so much for doing this. So all of you, welcome back. Our conversation about the Poor People's Campaign was very lively and passionate, and I'm always so inspired by the intelligence, heart, and inspiration in our peace movement. So now it's time to hear from the rockstar voices for peace in the House and Senate. First, Representative Barbara Lee. She has been a constant leader in the House against war, beyond her lone voice that was against the war in in Afghanistan. She co-chaired the Out of Iraq Caucus during the first years of our war on Iraq. She's the co-founder of the Defense Spending Reduction Caucus. She chairs the Congressional Progressive Caucus's Peace and Security Task Force. And in 2021, she introduced a resolution to cut the Pentagon budget by $350 billion and reinvest in a local peace economy. And her nonstop efforts to end the authorization for use of military force is awesome and inspiring. She is the peace voice you can always depend on and who never remains silent in the face of the insanity of the Pentagon, militarism, and war. Let's hear her voice now.
And just to say, there's sort of a glitch in her video that her audio is delayed by about 1 second, so it's a little off-putting, but you can still hear her pretty well. And you might also turn up your sound a little bit if it seems too soft. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Jody, for your very kind introduction. And thanks to the MIT Technology and Culture Forum, the Nuclear Disarmament Coordinating Committee, and Massachusetts Peace Action for all of your contributions to organizing this very important conference. Like many of you, I have been advocating for non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament for almost 5 decades. As we know, it is so critical that we keep working to not only reduce the threat of nuclear war, but to reduce the threat of all wars. For the past 2 decades, our country has taken a military approach to the world's problems. And finally ending America's longest war in Afghanistan, it is time to reverse that approach and to tell the truth about the devastation it has caused around the globe. Our post-9/11 wars have cost untold trillions, displaced an estimated 38 million people around the world, and directly killed thousands and thousands of people. Not only that, but they have left our nation woefully unprepared to confront the true security needs of the modern world. Our fellow members of Congress finished the year by authorizing the largest war-making budget in U.S. history since World War II, and they did so in the name of security. The greatest threats to America's security, pandemics, climate change, economic inequality, authoritarianism, cannot be defeated by war-making. It's time to stop relying on the same old playbook and instead forge a foreign policy that works for everyday people. A bloated defense budget won't help us get through this pandemic or prevent the next one. And the climate crisis cannot be addressed by a military force that emits more greenhouse gases than most countries. That's why I've introduced the Foreign Policy for the 21st Century Resolution. The resolution identifies the steps we need to take to create a strategy, a new strategy, cutting waste and unneeded spending from the Pentagon budget, taking war-making powers out of the hands of the executive branch and giving them back to Congress, limiting arms sales to human rights abusing regimes, and holding the United States accountable to international law, to name a few. I ask everyone listening today to call your Congress members and let them know that it is a priority to sign on to my bill, H.R. 2555, which will repeal the 20-year authorization to use military force that has been used to justify wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and around the world. Thanks again to Code Pink and everyone here today for everything you're doing to advance peace and justice in our own country and around the world. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you this year, and I hope to see you again soon as possible. Thank you, Jody, for your very kind introduction, and thanks.
Awesome. So next, we get to hear from Senator Ed Markey, who has been a champion for reducing the threat of nuclear weapons for years. Senator Markey has been quoted saying, "The United States has a moral responsibility to make the world safe for nuclear weapons." And in 2021, he introduced the NDAA amendments to reduce the role of US nuclear weapons and the threat of nuclear war. Let's hear from him now.
Thank you to the Nuclear Disarmament Coordinating Committee, Massachusetts Peace Action, and all who organized today's event on reducing the threat of nuclear war. A little over a year ago, a defeated President Donald Trump launched an attack on our democracy so brazen that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs felt the need to place himself between the president and our military commanders, including those who oversee the use of nuclear weapons. Today, we can breathe a sigh of relief. The nuclear football is in safer hands. One of President Biden's first foreign policy actions as president was to extend the new START treaty for an additional 5 years, keeping limits and inspectors' eyes on the world's two largest nuclear weapons stockpiles. Even so, we see budding nuclear dangers in many places. At the time of this taping, Russia has amassed 100,000 troops on Ukraine's border, with one of its top diplomats saying that the situation could evolve into a Cuban Missile Crisis if Putin's demands are not met. I remember in horror those 13 days in 1962 when we prayed that the better angels of our nature would prevail. Recently, our top general called China's test of a hypersonic glide missile a Sputnik moment. The analogy implies that the test was a technological feat that demands a U.S. response. The truth is that we have had hypersonic nuclear weapons as long as living rooms featured black and white TVs. Since 1959, in fact, the United States stockpiles have featured ballistic missiles which travel at 5 times or more the speed of sound. This is not a Sputnik moment for the United States. We see two competing camps in how we should react to these national security challenges. The first camp says that we should spend our adversaries into oblivion. They say that the $1.5 trillion price tag on U.S. nuclear weapons upgrades through 2046 is an affordable insurance policy in a dangerous world where Russia and China are asserting themselves geopolitically. This camp knows that hyping threats is a moneymaker. Sowing fear and distrust empowers voices in the defense establishment to invest in new capabilities that spur other actors to justify weapon systems of their own. With this ongoing cycle of investments in newer, bigger, more powerful weapons, we risk that worst-case military planning that will take hold, as it did during the Cold War. We can either reopen the playbook that gave us the Cold War security dilemma, or we can, with your help, chart a future where Carl Sagan's pale blue dot, the only home we have ever known, cannot be wiped out in the blink of an eye. The path forward is one that challenges the tired arguments of the nuclear weapons priesthood and proposes a bold action plan that could include Track 1.5 and Track 2 talks so the US, China, and other actors can ensure that a sunk boat or drowned aircraft in the Taiwan Strait or South China Sea does not escalate to war due to miscalculation. It also includes direct talks by President Biden with President Xi to understand the reasons why China may double its nuclear stockpile by 2027. The message needs to be clear. Great global powers are not defined by the size and lethality of their nuclear arsenals. They are defined by their good faith efforts to rid themselves of these existential weapons. The stakes of the United States-Russia talks related to Ukraine underway as I tape this video could not be greater. An invasion of Ukraine would reinforce concerns by our allies and partners that Vladimir Putin's grand design is to rebuild the Soviet Union. Successful diplomacy, on the other hand, could not only diffuse simmering tensions on the continent, but also give birth to an argument to limit new types of weapons. And we need an agreement after we have that discussion, after we have an argument, because ultimately we have to get a path to yes, we will reduce nuclear weapons. Finally, a sane vision demands that nuclear posture review that President Biden is conducting leads the world by example. It should say that the United States will never again shoot the first shot in a nuclear war, especially in light of the well-founded fear that his predecessor may have been willing to do just that. The NPR must also break from the doctrine of nuclear weapons overkill. Simply, we cannot afford, nor do we need the Pentagon's wish list, which includes 100 or more new strategic bombers, 12 new ballistic missile submarines, 640 new intercontinental ballistic missiles, a new nuclear air launch cruise missile, a new nuclear sea launch cruise missile, F-35s that are nuclear armed, and a new bomb-making set of facilities. That is the definition of nuclear overkill. 40 years ago this summer, I spoke in New York Central Park to the largest peace rally in American history. I said, I have a question for 1 million people. Do you want an end to the nuclear arms race? Together we did. And many years later, we are confronted with the same question. The United States cannot do it alone, but U.S. leadership can give us a chance to break the cycle of escalation and secure a future where the fate of millions no longer hangs on the whims and judgment of fallible leaders. This may seem like a David versus Goliath battle, but it is one worth fighting, and I am honored to join you all on the right side of history. Thank you for everything that you are doing. 40 years from the Central Park rally, the nuclear freeze, no more deployment or manufacture of nuclear weapons. You're needed more than ever. We're at a point where we could see a dramatic escalation across this planet in nuclear weapons unless we, the United States, are the leaders. Thank you for being those people.
Oh, well, those were inspiring and important messages for Congresswoman Barbara Lee and Senator Jeff Merkley. And I just want to say, I have been in the streets with them for 40 years. And first, I want us to take what it is to bend the arc of justice and to end war. It takes our time and our commitment. And those are two very committed leaders. And, feel their fight and their passion. And they're in the midst of utter madness in Congress that continues to fund war and serve those who make a killing on killing, the weapons manufacturers, instead of the needs of the people. So just be nourished by that. And then just to let you know, I'm filling in for my partner, Medea Benjamin, who is in Honduras still at the inauguration of President Castro, after just returning from Cuba, where she delivered 18 tons of powdered milk to the people of Cuba. So thank you, Jonathan King and Elaine Scarry and Joe Gerson and Bill Hartong for sharing your wisdom on nuclear weapons and ending their threat. And Susan Mirsky for keeping everyone on time, and Amar for getting our questions answered. And thank you to Shally Barnes for bringing it home to the costs and that to the needs of the people, and Phyllis for inspiring us, even as she warns us what's in our way. And Joe for telling us the dark facts about weapons manufacturers and giving us a solution to defunding nuclear weapons. Cut the Pentagon. You can join that movement at cutthepentagon.org. Members of the coalition have been in the streets of DC and around the country every day since 9/12 of 2021. And then Larry Cohen for reminding us that our votes matter. And thank you to Campaign for Peace, Disarmament, and Common Security, Chicago Area Peace Action, My Own Code Pink, Institute for People's Engagement, Mass Peace Action, MIT Radius, MIT Faculty Newsletter, Nuclear Weapons Education Campaign, US Pugwash, Amy Rugel Giving Fund, and Norris Rugel Giving Fund for all you did to bring these awesome speakers and communities together. So now we need to get into action, and we need to engage together. This gathering to discuss how we could reduce the existential threat of nuclear weapons couldn't have come at a more serious and relevant time. The United States is now endangering the entire world by pushing us closer and closer to a nuclear war with Russia. We heard Joe Gerson explaining this historical moment. It is, each of us must speak out with what we have learned today, because the mainstream media, as always, is driving the war messaging. Today, Ukrainians begged the United States war swaggering to end, as it is deeply upsetting and stressing the people of the Ukraine. I was in Iraq when Bush, in the face of a clear lie from Colin Powell at the UN, called for shock and awe on Iraq, lying that they had weapons of mass destruction. That day, I watched as beautiful Iraqi moved into terror and panic. After experiencing what we did in the US on 9/11, why would we do that? Why would we inflict that on others? We're doing it again to the people in the Ukraine and, the people in Taiwan. We did this even before we killed 1 million Iraqi and sent Iraq back to the Middle Ages. So think of where we are in this moment in history. The media is yet again uneducating the United States populace and inflaming its hearts so that more money can be spent on more war. It's an incredibly dangerous situation, and importantly, it speaks to the United States' permanent war footing. All while faced while an ongoing climate crisis and surging COVID-19 infections, our government's response is to try to distract us by ratcheting up tensions with Russia and sending more weapons to Ukraine, yet again breaking an agreement. Our representatives have struggled for months and still can't pass Build Back Better. But when it comes to $634 billion for nuclear weapons over the next decade, both parties couldn't agree more. They're now fast-tracking legislation to provide more money for more weapons to Ukraine, bringing us closer to a nuclear winter, a climate change that is an existential threat to life on the planet. Many of you have been working to prevent this for decades. I have utmost gratitude to each one of you who took your Saturday to be together, to learn, to be inspired, to be reminded, to be together, to recognize yourself as a peacemaker, And now you have what you need. As Shelley said, know who you are and what we're up against. We are still small and ignored by the media, but we are smart, heartful, and passionate. We have been attuned today. Our voices have been strengthened, our resolve strengthened. It is our task to be tuning forks for peace in the midst of stupidity and lies that drives and funds war. To give those, our fellow Americans confused by what they hear, a strong arm of reason and morality to hold on to. Know who you are and what you need to be doing as you disconnect from Zoom today. We must build a larger movement. We heard that from everyone. So let's say our first task is to turn ourselves into 10 people or more. Well, first, you need to wear peace on your sleeve. It's not something you do right now on a Saturday afternoon. It's what you do every day. Wear it on your sleeve, wear a button, wear a message. People want to talk about peace right now. The polls just came in. A majority of the people in the United States do not want what is happening right now in Ukraine. So start the conversation, wear it, make friends, share what you feel and what you know by standing for peace. They need someone to, give them a place instead of this suck into the lies. Wear a message, be bold. Join a peace community. Mass Peace Action, Code Pink, Black Alliance for Peace, Veterans for Peace. Add more of them in the chat, as we need to be in community to build, especially for those days it feels daunting, or we are freaking frustrated with the stupidity of those in powers, or the days that weigh down our hearts in grief for the death and destruction that is paid for by our tax dollars. Just in the last few weeks, watching those young kids be incinerated in Yemen. So I want to take a minute and read what other groups should we be joining. Is there any in the chat that people have added? What are other groups that we could be joining? Nuclear Ban USA. Look in the chat and see where you need to be. Be in a community. And then join a local community group that is not about war, but is it about an issue that needs funds from war to solve what they are calling for, which is everything, if you think about it. So get involved locally. All the money we need is in the war budget, or it is that war budget that holds the structures of violence, imperialism, colonialism, patriarchy in place. So join them, be in the streets with them, listen to them, organize with them. So then when we have something we need, you can invite them to join you. But first you must join them and listen to them and be related to the issues that need the money from war. Invite others to engage with you, to join you in your community, either your peace community or the community that you're engaging with locally. I mean, you can invite others to engage with you at the Code Pink Mass Peace Action Congressional Calling Nights on Tuesday. You can invite others into the streets to say no war on Russia. Those events are going to be happening locally in the next few weeks. Start inviting all your friends to them. Be there, bring friends, meet people there, engage with them. One of the things I heard about some of the early actions around the Iraq War is that we peace activists would show up, but we didn't go out and meet the young people and bring them in and engage with them. It is our task to engage others. Don't talk to each other, find somebody new and find out what concerns them and why, and see how you can be in service to them. Invite others to join you in attending local Poor People's campaign groups. Go to the poorpeoplescampaign.org and attend their weekly gatherings, and find out what's local and start building your community that you're going to bring to DC in June for the Poor People's Gathering. I mean, always organizing is about organizing for something. So there we go. We have something to organize for. a huge peace contingent in June in DC that calls for cutting the Pentagon and calls to disarm. And there's things that you can be doing locally to do that. So we have to be building every day to get enough of a movement there in June. So why don't you put in the chat the other things that people can show up for each week? Share with each other in this chat where we can join you. We need like Abolition 2000, Peace and Justice Sustainability Now, Beyond the Bomb, truthawareness.us, ICANN, yes, Physicians for Social Responsibility, No First Use, keep sharing. I know that they'll take this chat and share it back with us so that we have places to reference. So, and if you can't find something, it might just be the nudge you need to create something, a peace book club, a peace choir, a mutual aid community, working together on the needs of today, right now, while pointing to their solutions are in cutting the Pentagon. Be inspired by that voice of Joan Eckling earlier, when her insistence was to talk about the costs of war at the same time as we talk about, what's being invested in, and include the planet is burdened by the cost of war. It's the greatest industrial contributor to climate change. Put your body on the line if you can. And also take care of yourself, but be in direct action. Think of the youth that were bombed in Yemen in the last weeks, whose lives, their bodies were in life, and our tax dollars destroyed those innocent lives. Don't let that grief and anger affect you. Use it to make visible your anger and grief and direct it towards the war machine, those weapons manufacturers making a killing on killing. Join the call to disarm locally and ask your member of Congress to stop taking money from the weapons manufacturers. We can track every vote of a weapons sale and every vote on the NDAA to taking money from weapons manufacturers. We've got to stop that. As we were told earlier, follow the money. So, we can't show up in Congress and disrupt it right now. So we need to do it locally. And so what's great is we can be organizing locally. We can be building power locally. There are so many ways. Oh, I forgot to mention World Beyond War has so many ways. So we need to be going to the offices of members of Congress, offices of the senators. We need to be doing it colorfully and together and in coalition. Showing up locally matters so much right now. We can see it make a difference. And you can join Cut the Pentagon at cutthepentagon.org and create local actions. There's a team to support you in connecting to the other 100 coalition members locally. And also they offer tools that you need. There's the call to disarm, where Danica is there to help you build locally and calling on your member of Congress to divest themselves from the war machine. So I know how committed you are. You're here. But take a moment to recommit, to take what you've heard and see where you can expand your engagement to what these speakers have called on you to do. What struck you that you could be doing? Write it down right now. Commit to it. We must be as dedicated to peace as those who are making a killing and working for the war manufacturers. What's in your way? What holds you back from making a plan right now for the next 6 months to build this movement and be in DC for the Poor People's Campaign gathering? Let's show the country, let's show those poor people who are at the greatest effects of this war economy and this war machine that we are with them. Let's show Congress that they can't get away with voting more money for war. It takes steps, it takes starting, it takes building. You've been inspired today. You've been given tools today. There's hope. People are starting to see through the lie that pouring more and more money into nuclear weapons and US militarism is about anything other than padding the pockets of war profiteers and creating more chaos in the world that leads to the US remaining an imperialist hegemonic power. In a statement released earlier this week about the developing crisis with Russia, Representatives Pramila Jayapal and Barbara Lee said there is no military solution out of this crisis. Diplomacy needs to be the focus. Their words couldn't be clearer. And since the theme of this conference is to plan how we work together to connect the abolition of nuclear weapons to the lives of everyday people and begin to spread our message that we need to divest from war and invest in a peace economy, let's end our time together today by taking action and spreading our message far and wide. Here are 2 ways. Carly Town, the campaign manager of Code Pink's Divest from War and Cut the Pentagon campaigns, will post the tweet that you can tweet right now. And for those that don't tweet, she's going to post the call in number that you can call right now. So when you tweet, after you tweet, copy your tweet and paste it in the chat. And the rest of us can retweet it. And then we're connected to each other and follow each other. So we can continue to be following each other and retweeting each other and raising up our peace messages from this day forward. And if you're not tweeting, call on the number that Carly is posting. I think she's posting. Call your member of Congress. And 2 things. Well, first, I want you to be inspired what happened today, and I want you to go into your heart, and I want you to speak from your heart. I want you to leave a sincere and very felt message about why they must stop voting money for weapons and war. Tell them personally why you have your concern and why you need them to stop voting for more money for weapons, especially nuclear weapons, and how irresponsible to life on the planet to put a penny into nuclear weapons is. We have lost our way. We must find our way back to disarming. You tell them why they can't fund war with Russia, and they have to stop voting more money to weapons and making the rich richer and destroying the fragile planet that we depend on for life. And to quit being so barbaric in their destruction and their murdering of innocent people. So be sincere in the message you leave. If you're calling Congress, you can do what Barbara Lee asked you earlier, include in your message to join Barbara Lee's authorization to repeal the authorization for the use of military force. Ask them to join with her while you ask them about everything else. Leave a long and sincere message. A human being has to listen to it. Be relational with them, because make them feel uncomfortable for what they're doing every day in Congress. I want to thank you for all you do. Please remember you're a tuning fork for peace, and commit yourself as deeply as you can and walk the world as a peacemaker, as Thich Nhat Hanh, who inspired Martin Luther King to speak out against the Vietnam War, did. Always do it from your heart and with your stories that make it grounded and real to others. The war economy forces us into ways of behaving that literally keep it going. But we belong to the peace economy. We are relational. We come from our hearts always. And that's where our power is. It's in our hearts, in our love for people, and in our empathy to the destruction that our tax dollars are used for daily. So onward to peace, together with caring and joy. Now let's be acting together. Let's see, we've got, you've got the tweet to share. And now what you want to be doing is is putting in, there we go. We got Brian's tweet. You can retweet that. There's Jackie's tweet. You can retweet her. The Gandhi guy, what a great tweet. Curb militarism. There's Code Pink. all these tweets, all you have to do is click on them and retweet them. And then the more we click on them and retweet, the more we are connected. Please follow each other, because it's not just about today. Today is the starting point for something that we can look back on at the end of June and say, this is what we did. And then we can learn from each other what worked, what didn't work, what we want to do more of, and then we start again. So remember to think about your lessons, because that's what we're going to want to share. The day after the Poor People's Campaign event, we're going to have a whole day for the Cut the Pentagon Coalition to share these lessons, to be together, to be re-inspired, and to plan our next layer of building. So it's just like, we are going to continue to build, and we are going to rock Congress so that they cannot vote for war again. That is our goal, and together we can achieve it. How's the calls going? Anybody on a call want to say how that felt in the chat? Add any of what you felt in sharing, as if anybody wants to. It looks like we have a lot of good ideas coming up. I want to keep this rolling. So it's because we've got this chat is our togetherness. This is our sharing with each other, our supporting each other. That's what's most important now. It's not what somebody isn't doing, it's what they are doing and how we can join them. We need to look from the place of appreciation. Like, everybody's not going to do it your way. They're going to do it their way. Appreciate their way and join in and learn from them. We all have something to learn from each other. Community, one of the definitions of community, which is what we need to be building, I call it the peace economy. One of the first things we need to do to build an arc to get through this flood of inequality and global climate change is create community. And one of the things about community is you're in a community when somebody irritates you. That's the difference between a community and a cult. So appreciate those people that irritate you. Take the opportunity to see why and what you can learn from them, and what's the irritation about, and how can your heart be bigger. Building peace is something we can be doing every day, and community is a great practice ground. And getting out of we live in the most narcissistic country in the world. And so, if that's the tendency that we live in, our tendency should be to find ways to connect, to listen, to be in respect and engagement with others. And we can do that every day. And let's practice being peacemakers every day, and we'll just get better at it. Great. We've got the Mayors for Peace toolkit there. I bet there's lots of toolkits from all the organizations that are here that is so great for us to be able to share. The message you need to be sharing in the next few weeks is no war on Russia. Find ways to be in the streets. And, another thing that's super important. Yes, we want to be a mass of people in the end of June in DC, but locally it takes so few, and you can look to many organizations that with 3 people, you can make it look like a lot, especially if you dress up in costume and you sing and you make it look joyful. I always say we have to throw a better party. So, they're throwing a destructive, extractive, violent party that is killing us, our communities, and the planet. How do we be out there and show how to create conditions conducive for life, joy, camaraderie, and messages that speak to other people's hearts? I don't know, some people might be on Instagram and there's that guy with the sign, that writes signs on cardboard. Mimic the guy with the sign. Get out there and just be one person in front of CNN. I mean, I didn't talk enough about how you need to engage with the media. When you're angry, just pick up mainstream media and follow one of the articles that they're lying us into war on Russia, and comment on it. Comment on it. Bring your truth. Take them down. Don't let them lie. Be engaged, but beautifully. Don't call people names, just deliver your truth. We don't need to be name callers. We just need to be truth deliverers. So that, at Code Pink, we call it being disarming, because when we go at people, straight at people, that's war. That's what we're trying to end. And it never does any good, and it never creates anything useful. But being disarming is bringing in humor, bringing in humanity, bringing in joy, bringing in song, bringing in dance, bringing in theater. Code Pink, why do we dress up in costume and wear pink? Because it's disarming. So how do we get people to change and to listen? It's to address their hearts. And it's where we change, and it's where we can affect others. So I'm not sure if I'm turning it back over to Jonathan and Cole, or if we're all set and inspired and nourished, and we just make sure we don't leave without our commitment.
Right. Jody, thank you so much. Thank you so much for leading the way. Like you say, this is the beginning of a kind of a new phase of mobilization. We'll be out there sending our letters to Congress, to our friends out in the streets. And as
You went on mute, Jonathan. You went on mute.
And June 18th is the kickoff of, moving into the 2022 elections, as Larry Cohen talked about. So thank you all so much for being with us. And we will stay in touch and build the kind of army that we need to win this battle for peace. I shouldn't say army.
Oh, no.
Right.
Jody doesn't want us to
more
fight
words.
The kind of cooperation and collaboration and communication, the kind of network, right? But solid network, right? Woven together, right? Not a thin network. So long, everybody, and
Peace. Onward to peace.